Yo, 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 everybody. It is I, back from the woods. I'm actually wearing a cape right now, cloak, and it looks pretty cool. I haven't looked in a mirror, but I'm pretty sure it looks cool. At least that's how it feels, so don't ruin it. Definitely a cloak. Just spent the last 2 or 3 hours walking around the farm looking for mushrooms. I wanted to make an omelet for breakfast this morning, and I was like, okay, I'll get up and go find some mushrooms to put in my omelet. And yeah, usually you can't walk 10 feet without stepping on a mushroom. I walk around this whole property probably 3 or 4 miles, and this is the bounty I've acquired. Hey! 1 oyster mushroom. Yeah. Pretty disappointing. But as I came down here to record this, I just so happened to be walking on the path, and there's a big, huge mushroom right there. And that's edible, elm oyster. So I guess some weird trick of fate trying to make me walk around all day. Although it's not half a bad day for walking. This is really excellent weather right now. The first cold night that I've had really was last night. The thermometer said 40 degrees at 9:30 this morning, and it must have gotten colder than that at some point. It was the first night that I actually felt cold inside my sleeping bag, although I wasn't wearing any warm layers really. So I'll have to get used to that. But it smells so fresh out here and clean, and just like fall. Oh my gosh. The humidity is gone and everything dries out. It's windy right now, and that makes the forest really loud. And when the trees are rustling and crashing around, it sounds kind of scary at first, but like the whole place is gonna tear down. I've been worried a little bit about my shelter coming down, but it's actually pretty protected under all those trees. My shelter looks a bit like a kite, I think, but I think that's just an illusion. The wind that comes through and hits the mosquito netting is actually broken up almost completely. So the air going over the top of the shelter ends up going faster than the air over the bottom of the shelter, and that actually pushes it down. So it's a really nice design. Works pretty well. Still feel like the whole place is gonna uproot at times, and it's really cool though. Just watching the clouds scud across the sky, and sunshine one moment, darkness the next. It's pretty neat. And the best part is, mosquitoes are gone! Gone! They're all gone! Yes! Yes! Oh my gosh. This is already my favorite time of year just for that reason. I love fall. I've been working on some improvements to my camp, things that I've been thinking I would do for a long time, but haven't actually gotten around to yet. The other day I built a tripod for cooking my food, hanging my cast iron pan over the fire, and now I can actually control the temperature of my cooking, and that's a huge improvement. I can cook my food without burning it to a crisp on the outside. Last night I was working on a shelving unit that I'm gonna put inside my camp, because there's a little bit of dew that sometimes forms on the dead grass inside my shelter, and I want to get my stuff up off the ground. So I'm just driving some poles into the ground right now, and I'm gonna attach some boards to that. I've had this idea going around for a while, but I wasn't sure if I'd actually be able to do it. Hopefully once I get the whole thing together, I'll take some pictures of it and upload those. I think it's gonna work out really well, actually. You know, one of the reasons I decided to do the entire 11-month program out here rather than maybe a 3-month program, which would have been easier, is I didn't want to be able to just power through the whole time. I wanted to have to adapt to my situation and my circumstances, to have to mentally become comfortable rather than just push through like I only have 2 months left or I only have 2 weeks left. I wanted to feel like it was an immense amount of time, basically like I was going to be here my entire life, and then I'd want to have to adapt to that. And I think I'm becoming much better at doing that. For some reason, initially, whenever I stopped thinking about the length of time that I'm going to be here, like 10 months and 21 days more, or I've made it through 2 weeks and 5 days now, and will I be able to persist the rest of the time? You know, like, I would always be constantly going over the length of time ahead and reviewing the length of time that had passed and comparing the two and judging whether I would be able to manage to do the whole thing. For some reason, whenever I would stop doing that and whenever I would be just present right here in today or in this week or in this minute, like my mind would freak out and be like, whoa, 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 what are you doing? You need to go back and think about the whole 11 months. Like, stop settling in and getting comfortable. You need to remember that this is going to be a long ordeal that you're suffering through. And that's a pretty weird thing that was happening. But I don't think that's happening anymore. I'm getting a lot better at just living for the day, living for the moment. If I think about trying to make a hot meal every day over my fire for the next year and trying to keep it varied and nutritious and in accordance with the different changing of seasons, it's a little bit hard to think about. Like, I can't, it's overwhelming to imagine all the work that would take. But if I just think about today's 3 meals and maybe tomorrow's 3 meals and just keeping enough variance in those, then it seems to, my energy for cooking seems to renew itself. It's like your heart gets all the rest that it needs between beats. So what I'm trying to do is get all the rest that I need between days and be totally refreshed anew every morning. And that, I think, is a pretty worthy goal. I've decided that since I have a lot of time to think about things and gain experience and wisdom, and a lot of you out there don't have so much time, I was hoping to be able to impart some of the things that I've learned. And with that in mind, I plan to issue a challenge every time I do one of these videos. So before I had my challenge of taking a day off, spending a day without distractions, and I'd like to continue that for as long as I can. So for my challenge today, I want you to do something new every day and keep doing that for the rest of your life. That is my challenge. It doesn't have to be anything big. It can be something big, but it could just be something simple. You could go to a different place on your walk every day. You could try cooking a different meal every day, or just try a different food from the supermarket. You could climb a tree, or, you know, eat a different plant or something. It doesn't have to be anything specific, but just something that you haven't done before. It could be anything. I realized back when I was living at home, a lot of the time I would just go through my day, and at the end of the day I wouldn't have anything to talk about. Like, looking back on the things that I've done nothing new, done nothing noteworthy or worth talking about, and I've just been following the same old routines that I've always done. Whereas here, every time I write a letter to home, it's like 5 pages worth of new things I've done just the past week, and those are just the noteworthy ones. Like, the amount of new experiences I have each day is staggering. So if you're able to get a new experience every day, no matter what it is, I think that's worthwhile, and that's my challenge. Peace.
You and Brett went up to, well, I call it Brett's secret beach, because last year he discovered it. We sighted it way down the beach, and then just sent him off solo to walk down there, and he found this secret beach. But you guys went overland this time, and
Yeah.
what was your adventure like?
It was an adventure, I'll call it that. Quite a trek. We parked at the trailhead, and I was thinking like 1 to 3 miles maybe, super easy hike, just a little trek off into the woods. So we walk along the trail, and it's super overgrown, just covered with grass and trees falling across the trail. So that was a bit of a hike to get through, but it was pretty nice. Just lots of aspen trees, lots of white bark on both sides of the trail. Really cool forest. And we hike maybe 1.5 miles, and we're looking at the map, and there's a point where the creek that we're following to the lake comes closest to the trail, and the trail ends before we get to the beach. So we knew we were going to have to follow the creek at some point. So we looked on the map and we found the spot where the creek is closest to the path. And we decided to leave the path and join the creek there, which was kind of a terrible decision if we wanted to make it there in any reasonable amount of time, but it was the fun way of doing it. So we ended up, the creek just seems to have carved a huge ditch through the land, and we ended up hiking up and down that ditch, and it just curved all around in crazy directions, and we probably went 2 or 3 times as far as we would have following on a trail, just trying to go around the hills and follow the different meanderings of the creek, and just squeeze our way through big spruce trees. That was kind of a pain, but so much fun. Saw all sorts of toads and frogs and lobster mushrooms on the trail, and lots of birds. You would just be walking along, and out of the grass on the side of the trail, it'd be like the sound of thunder, and you'd see just a bird flying through the trees, and it sounded like a jet engine. So it must have been, I guess it was pheasants or grouse or something. But those things are pretty cool. And we did finally make it to the beach. That was cool. It was like you could see it from 1/4 mile off, but just can't see a way of getting to it. Just have to get over this hill. Yeah, we straggled into there like desert wanderers arriving at an oasis. It was great though. The view from that beach. It was like, that whole trip, it felt, you wouldn't really consider the 3-mile hike through the dense forest to Wisconsin to be a vacation, but that's really what it felt like. Just the second day especially, we just kind of sat around on the beach, had leisurely breakfast and coffee, and then we wandered around looking for agates. I got pretty cold because of the wind, so I just lay down in the sand where it was hot and sunny. And if you just sit with your face in the sand for a little while, you can just notice really cool things. Like, just a little handful of sand probably has dozens of cool little stones and crystals in it, and it's fun to just stare at that for a while. If anybody had come up, they probably would have thought we were weird, really just staring with our faces in the sand. We didn't even pitch our tents. We just rolled out the sleeping pads and slept under the star-filled sky. Actually, it was pretty close to the full moon, so it was kind of hard to sleep out under the stars. The first night I just kind of hid next to the hill, under all of the trees where it was dark, and that was a bit nicer. But no mosquitoes, perfect weather, it was great.
Wow.
And we stopped at a smoked fish place on the way back, and they had brown sugar lake trout.
Ah,
That was awesome.
that's some good fish,
Best
isn't it?
fish I've ever had, yeah.
Like a spear hand. This is gonna like slide down through here. Instead of squeezing real hard, I'm gonna squeeze moderately hard. Then I'm gonna drop my shoulders back.
Oh yeah.
Chin down.
I'm gonna keep trying.
That's defense number one. That's coming around, is I'm thinking you're trying to control this hand coming through. Yep.
I
Might
feel like it
switch.
would look pretty cool though.
Yeah.
Check this out. This is what we found. There it is. Oh. That's very cool. I don't know what kind that is.
Why does breaking off a piece of metal make a
Well,
spark?
I got it out for
So
you.
what you're
I
doing
got
essentially
it out for you.
is you're hitting that. It's really cool if we looked under a microscope. This is harder than the metal, and it breaks off a little teeny piece, and it does it with so much pressure that it makes it molten essentially. So those sparks are little pieces of molten metal, and I've done this. I've caught them on a piece of paper because they, it takes them about that far to cool off in this
Oh, and
air.
then there's this little piece of metal.
Yep, and they're perfectly round little balls. That's really neat.
Oh, because of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
So every time you make a spark, you're forming this perfectly round little ball.
You can pick up the whole thing. I'm just trying to squeeze the grass tight against the charcoal.
Oh my gosh. You got fire already.
Oh my gosh! That is amazing!
This was a strange 2 weeks because, well, not strange, but just different than our regular routine. Your mom came out for a while, and you had an adventure up north with Brett. How was it to see family?
It was good. Yeah. It's been more than twice as long now than I have seen my parents ever before in the past. So the longest I've been away from home ever was 22 days, and now it's been 50 days. And I just saw my mom the other day, so that was a first experience.
Did that affect homesickness at all? Did you have like a relapse when she left?
Yeah, pretty much. Just went back to, as I said, I felt like I had the full weight of 11 months on me again after kind of forgetting about that.
Yeah.
For sure that happened, and especially that was compounded by the nasty weather that day, and it just rained all afternoon and was windy and rained and thundered all night. Although, when my mom was here, we went into town and went into like a coffee shop, and I got a mocha latte. I'm not sure what that is, but it was good. And walked around the farmer's market, and that was really fun. But just back at my camp that evening, just out in the field, it was kind of breezy and fall sounding, and just watching the leaves drift through the air. And at one point, I just started running through the field and was chasing after all these leaves through the air and just started laughing and shouting and like, freedom! Feel so free right now. This is not something I could be experiencing in a coffee shop or in my bed at home. Like, this is something special. And that was a really cool moment.
That's powerful.
But then
Wow.
it started raining like an hour later and I just started getting depressed again. That was over pretty quick, but I still remember that.
Oh, wow. So good. So you've had some experiences on both sides of that, having that pain and then transforming that pain.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the problem is I'm just very short-sighted. Like, whenever I feel down or unhappy, it's like, oh, dang it, I'm gonna feel like this for the rest of my life. No good there. Of course, that's not true.
Yeah.
And just feel like I should be out. It's fall. The only other time I've really felt like it was fall was when I spent a year in Rhode Island, because Washington has pretty sucky seasons. And in Rhode Island we did so many fun things in the fall. Like I played soccer games and went to corn mazes and pumpkin fests and cider pressings, and I feel like I should be doing all that sort of stuff around here, but well, I might get a chance to do some of it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna carve a pumpkin.
Right.
It's gonna be fun.
Where do you feel like you are right now today?
Today I feel pretty good, probably because I got about 11 hours of sleep last night. And it's pretty sunny out. It didn't rain last night, and I don't know, it was cold this morning, but I'm not cold anymore. And I guess I'm just not thinking about being here for 9 more months, and that makes a big difference, just not thinking about it.
Sure.
Like last night, I actually felt really good. I was reading and then eating dinner with my fire, and I feel like I'm becoming more able to just tolerate my own mind, which is like basically my main motive for doing this. It's amazingly difficult for people who have lived like I have, just with stimulation all the time, to just be by yourself, not really doing anything, and get your mind to shut up and not bother you so much. But I think I'm getting better at it.